Welcome, everyone. You're on Angel Heart Radio with Anaya Joy Holili and our awesome, spectacular, magnificent, and fantastic astrologer, Janet Hickox.
Way to start the show, Anaya. I love it. Thank you.
That's pretty good, I thought. It's pretty true, too.
That was awesome. Thank you.
So today we're going to be looking at June and the winter summer solstice, and we're going to be looking at it with regards to astrology and human design. And Janet just so happens to be an expert in both of them. And don't you tell me you're not an expert in both of these fields. And all joking aside, we're really privileged to have you with us, Janet. You always bring something so fantastic to Angel Heart Radio. So before we kick off, we can see right there that your website is living-astrology.com. How do people find you on Facebook?
Same name, Living Astrology, as a business page. And if you don't know how to, if you don't have a bookmark, something, just go up to the search bar, type in Living Astrology. Don't even need the dash for that. And boom, there I am. Yeah.
Fantastic.
I'm also on YouTube with that. And I'm also on Instagram with Living Astrology with Janet on Instagram.
I love it.
Yeah.
So there's lots of ways that people can connect with you. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later on. But do know that you can go to Janet's website and get your free chart there with a little mini reading from Janet. And it's really worth doing that. So, Janet, before we start, everyone, Angel Heart Radio programs are not designed nor intended to replace your legal, medical, nor professional advice, nor your own sound judgment. It's very important to remember that. So Carol Ann's trying to join us. Welcome to everyone. Maybe this is your first time with Janet. If that's the case, you're in for something fabulous. Welcome, 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 whether you're with us live or maybe you've come in later, maybe you're on the podcast. We love having you with us. So, Janet, what can you tell us about what June may have in store for us?
Well, it doesn't waste any time getting interesting. That I can tell you. Tomorrow is June 1st, and we hop right in with something kind of unique in that planet Jupiter, which represents growth and expansion and optimism and all of the sort of ways in which we evolve our consciousness, comes into connection with the north node of the moon, which the north node is often called a destiny point. Some people call it the dragon's head. It is a direction that we're moving in, like we're being propelled to evolve in that direction. And they're coming together in a conjunction and at 3 degrees of Taurus. So we have a sort of signal from the universe that it's time to slim things down or to simplify things, to get back to the basics, right? To get back to the love we feel for one another, to get back to what sensually feels good for us. Taurus is a sign of all the senses, except for sense. So the taste and smell and touch and all of those, feel good sort of things. And the North Node sitting at a gate in human design that we call accountability in quantum human design, but is a gate that reminds us that everyone is accountable to themselves for their own self-nurturing. So for the next, several weeks at least, we have this feel that we have to take care of ourselves. And it's not that we're not here to take care of others or help others. It's that we also, instead of, mothering people, we need to teach them how to take care of themselves. So it has a lot of teaching energy in it. So if we were, for example, when we raise our children, right, we don't just take care of them, we're also teaching them how to take care of themselves, right? And that's the thing, is that our world is so crazy sometimes that we're all spinning out of control. And then we wonder why we feel tired, why we get sick, or why we, just feel unmotivated. And it's because what we didn't learn first is that we have to take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
You can't give to other people if you're coming from a deficit, right? So this gives us another, lesson in taking care of ourselves first so that we have energy to take care or help others to learn how to take care of themselves. So
And
that's
that's where empowerment comes in, doesn't it? Because when we do
yeah,
take care of ourselves, not only are we taking care of ourselves, but we are modeling to others what it looks like when someone takes care of themselves. And that in itself is actually an encouragement.
yeah, absolutely. And some people have the tendency to over mother, or we call it smother mothering often, right? It's like, I have to be on you every minute and make sure that you have your coat and your lunch and hello, are they
Yep.
learning how to be responsible for themselves if you're always, taking care?
Yay! Oh,
We
you
made
made
it.
it, Carol. Oh, fantastic.
Hi,
Well done,
Computers.
you.
hi, Janet. Really great and happy to be here with you. So a few technical problems, but we're all here now.
Well,
Sorted
yes,
it out.
it's good to see you. I'm glad you sorted it out because I know computer problems can be so frustrating.
But you did it. And so I don't know whether you've caught up on the few minutes, but we're talking about self-care, mothering, and smother mothering, and what June has to offer us. So we'll hand that back over to you for a minute, Janet.
Yeah, so Carol Ann, we were talking about how like we don't get a reprieve with June, like we don't get to slowly move into anything. We just jump right in tomorrow, June 1st, or your June 1st is
Yeah, that's
today.
June today.
Our
Yeah.
so for you it'll be June 2nd. For us here in the Northern Hemisphere, it'll be June 1st, or at least in this time zone. And it is an energy where our destiny is intertwined, our growth and our evolution is intertwined with self-nurturing, which sounds so divine, doesn't it? To really, I mean,
Yeah.
I think we all know that we have to take care of ourselves first. But I think that we're all afraid on some level that taking care of ourselves first becomes selfish.
And that's it. That is a problem because we do think that, and yet we need to nurture ourselves and to think of ourselves and not to think of it in that way.
Yeah.
And we
I mean,
need to
honestly,
change the language around that from selfish to self-care, I feel.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, because I think, selfish is more about when I'm taking away from someone else in order to empower myself or to make myself better. So that doesn't apply here because what we're really saying is that from the well of my own well-being, my own taking care of self, that I can then share with other people and help other people who may be struggling at this moment. And there are a lot of people out there struggling. So we really need everybody to be, the best self that they can be. That's what this looks like for us. And it's a great way to start what is now a 12-year cycle before these two meet up again, right? So it's unique, right? It really calls our attention to bringing this particular uh, energy out. And then after this, we're following this up with the full moon. And the full moon is across Sagittarius and Gemini. And it's so we say that the moon is full in Sagittarius. And in a way, the full moon is asking us to change our beliefs around things, right? And our philosophies, our agreements that we've made. But on a bigger scale, it really is about how it is that we can restate things into healthy habits. Like, how can we create something of a wave of health and well-being? But it has to start with us, right? It has
That's
to
right.
start
And it's
here.
like shining the full moon is shining this bright light on what it is. It's highlighting for us what we need to look at and to change.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And
it carries possibilities with it, which is what I really love about this full moon. Possibilities and what could be, right? What could it look like if we were all taking care of ourselves first so that we could share with others? What would that look like?
Amazing.
okay, so Janet, can I just ask you then,
Yeah.
how's it, what might it look like then for us if we constantly get this message of taking care of ourselves, but continue to ignore it. What might that look like for us in June?
That might look like burnout.
There you go.
That might look like getting sick or getting tired or fatigue and depression, despondency. I mean, those are significantly, at the other end of things. You'd have had likely a history of ignoring self-care for that
Yep.
to really take place.
Mm.
But the biggest lesson in all of this is making yourself accountable for your own self-care. You cannot expect that someone else will take care of you. And for those
Yeah.
people who are not able to care for themselves because of illness or accidents or whatever, we can still help them to help themselves in some ways, right? So it's,
Yeah.
kind of going
Yep.
with what the level is of ability with each person. Like we can't expect a 3-year-old to be self-caring and understand what that means, but we
Mhm.
could teach them how to do for themselves and according to their age level and appropriateness.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah. Yeah.
that
That
I
makes a
think is
lot
the
of
biggest
sense.
key. Yeah,
Yeah. That makes a
because
lot of
so many
sense. And
people
I
are
think it's,
stressed.
yeah, and it's a really good reminder because we can know something and we can know it very well. And yet the reminders usually come up in a very appropriate time for us. It's like, oh, yeah,
Mhm.
that's right. I really needed to hear that again today.
Mhm.
So that's one of the things I love about having you on Angel Heart Radio. And of course, you're with Annette. This is Annette's time slot. You're with Annette on the first week of each month. Occasionally, that's the last week of the month in the US timeline. But on the Australian timeline, it's the first week of the month. And I think it's very important because when you bring all this information to the table, you also bring it in a way, that's so easy to understand, Janet. And I love that.
Oh, thank
Mm.
you. That's if we can't make it understandable, then it really has no use. I mean, this is why I like the name Living Astrology, because we really are living it. You are a testament to living what the stars, were doing in the sky at your birth. So it
Yeah.
also tells us that there are certain places in everybody's chart where nurturing energy is needing to take place. So, for example, if this were a chart of a person, this is the full moon's chart. If this were a chart of a person, that conjunction would be happening in Taurus in the fourth house of home and family and safety and security. So that person might find themselves needing to really self-nurture in order to be available for their homes
Yeah.
or for their family, for mothers and their, their extended family. But likely there's a history that they have been giving and giving and giving,
Mhm.
and maybe mothering, if you will, in that family. And then people come to expect that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then they
Absolutely.
take you for granted,
Yes.
right? They expect that you're going to be available for this, that, or the other thing. So
Yeah.
it's a big lesson, I think, for if this were a person, our person. So it also really then depends, where is Taurus in your own chart? Because remember, this is happening in Taurus, this conjunction. So the different houses of the chart show us the areas of life where this is going to be impactful for people. So if you know your chart, yay for you. If you don't know your chart, get a chart. Hit me up on my website and say I need a chart so that you can see where
Yeah.
Taurus is in your chart.
Absolutely. And the really cool thing is, let me interrupt again, Janet. The really
Yeah.
cool thing is when you go to living-astrology.com, you can get that chart. It is free. And because it's from Janet, I know that it's not simply, like a random run-of-the-mill thing that you can get sometimes. I know that you are very particular about the charts that you send out. And there is a little
Yeah.
mini reading with that as well. And of course, people can get a full reading with you and a human design chart, which I have to say absolutely changed the way I do things. Because I didn't understand, because I'm a manifesting generator, I didn't understand that when I get a brilliant idea and it feels brilliant at the time, when I put it out there, I have to step back and let the universe say yes or no. It'll either pick it up and bring some energy to me and carry it outward, or I could do what I used to do and just keep at it, keep putting so much energy into it and depleting
Pushing
myself.
through.
Oh my God, that was so exhausting all the time because they really
Yeah.
felt like great ideas, but they weren't the time for those ideas.
Yeah. See, the
There
whole
was no
key to
energy.
all of this is knowing yourself, right?
Yeah.
That's the biggest bang for your buck with astrology or human design. Because if you don't know who you are and who you're meant to be and how you're meant to make decisions,
Mm.
how do you
Yeah.
operate? Well, you operate what I call flying by the seat of your pants. You just, do whatever it is that you've been conditioned to believe is true for you. So
Yep.
learning
Yep.
your astrology or learning your human design really helps you get in alignment with what is true for you.
It's
Right?
so
And it's
true.
interesting too, because I'm a manifesting generator as well.
The two of you, busy, busy bees. Yeah, and
Yes.
the key in human design is, of course, the type that has a strategy. So every type has a kind of a strategy. They're not all the same. The manifesting generator has sort of a twofold strategy. One is to wait to respond to things that show up in your outer world, not acting from a space of the mind or ideas, right? Waiting until something in the outer world as a matching picture shows up. And the second thing is to make sure that you inform the people that will be impacted by your decisions before you make them, so you don't incur a bunch of resistance from people. Right. So, like, if you were to change the time that your regular broadcast is on, you'd probably want to tell people that a couple of weeks ahead of time so that they're informed. Hey, Angel Heart Radio is going to be on at 11 a.m. rather than 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. I can't remember what time it is there. And I'm just letting you know this, right? You're not asking permission for people, but that
Yeah.
aligns you at least with how a manifesting generator operates.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
that's just
Yep.
one small little piece of the puzzle that helps orient you to the right way to make decisions.
Yeah.
So looking ahead for June now, I know, you have a lot of info there to share with us. So we're looking with the moon in Taurus, the energy that's bringing our way and the energy it's actually offering us on how we want to choose to respond to it. What about with
Wait, it's Jupiter and the North Node that are in Taurus. Wrong
thank God
planet.
we've got you with
It's
us.
okay. The moon that we were beginning to talk about is in Sagittarius for the full moon.
Sagittarius.
And that'll be on June 4th for you guys. So another couple of days from now.
I have to say it's
Okay.
very bright at night. I got up early, hours of the morning, and it was like there was a switch turned on outside, and I knew we still had several days to the full moon, but it was so bright last night.
Yeah. The clarity of the air makes a big difference, right? Then that light is so bright. We've had clouds at night, a marine layer of clouds. So I haven't seen the moon at night, but of course it's out during the day right now. You just don't see the light of it. You just see, that little bit. This is an interesting moon because both the sun and the moon are going to be in a square relationship to the planet Saturn. Now, a square is kind of a challenge. So there's a challenge between the moon and Saturn and the sun and Saturn. And Saturn right now is sitting in the sign of Pisces. You know that one, Anea, because it's your sign. And Saturn in Pisces is about bringing down walls. And the biggest wall that we erect is fear, right? Fear blocks us off from, really living out the highest and best of our relationships and our jobs. And it affects us and impacts us in very powerful ways. So one of the ways this moon is going to be very impactful is it reminds us that we can always change our beliefs about who we are. And part of that might be in releasing ourselves from the fears that we have had. A lot of time, the fear that we're feeling in relationships is based on something that happened in the past, right? We had a nasty breakup and we take that baggage with us into the new relationships that we might be in. And we start to judge everything or view everything through the lens of that previous experience. So the challenge here is to really look to the spiritual part of ourselves to see things from that higher perspective. You know, Sagittarius moon is a sign that likes to go straight to the heart of something and to get to truth. How do we get to truth? Especially if we've blinded ourselves or we've, you know, made things confusing, is that we have to piece through it all and ultimately then release ourselves. We have to get, there's an element here that really speaks to reality and, and to not keep, you know, hiding ourselves from ourselves,
Yeah.
Yes.
right?
That makes a
Shine
lot of
the
sense.
light, see yourself in your truth.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
That does
yeah,
make
so
a
it's
lot
a,
of sense.
yeah, when we look at this now, I look at the moons, I look at a lot of things in a lot of different ways, but one of the things I like to do at the moons, is the full moon and the new, is to look at the Sabian symbol. Are you guys familiar with the Sabian
No.
symbols?
No.
So years ago, years back, there was a person who wanted to know what each degree of the zodiac wheel had as a meaning, right? Every degree has a different meaning. And so they hired a woman that would go in as a channel, and she channeled in what each of the degrees meant. And I've found them to be profound. Like they are profound. And where I get that information is from this book. Oh, you can't see it because of my background. Where can I bring it? Ah, right there. Jane Rudyard. Oh God, it's called an astrological mandala. But there's also books written by a woman named Linda Hill, that is also the Sabian symbols. So each degree, in this case, this moon is at 13 degrees of Sagittarius. And that degree is called the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx.
Wow.
And then, so that's what that degree is about. And then there's a little explanation about it. And really what my takeaway from that is when we look at the Sphinx and we look at the Great Pyramid, there's something ancient there that calls to us, some wisdom that's been hidden from us because we don't really know all of the details, right? We can surmise and scientists think they know. Egyptologists will tell you one thing. If you ever watch ancient astronauts, ancient aliens, they, you know, they have these other theories
Yeah.
about it. So there's certain power in our lost history that we have to regain, right? That will help us in this particular time period. And I call it our spiritual ancestry because it is so far back that we've forgotten it, but it's still in us because who isn't moved by seeing the Sphinx or the Great Pyramid? Bless you.
I just think it, you know, when I look at it, I just feel such a strength and wisdom, not just physical strength.
Bless you twice, 3 times. Two.
Bless you, bless you, bless you.
No one else knew because I had myself on mute.
But we
No,
could
but
see.
we could
Oh,
see
oh,
you.
we could
you
see
could
you. I
see
bet
me.
they couldn't see you.
But yes, I think of it as strength as well as ancient wisdom, and I just think of the mysticism that is in the Sphinx and the pyramids, and
Yeah.
just think they're amazing.
Well, just imagine if the present world crises that we have were
Mhm.
met by accepting spiritual principles
Oh yes.
rather than what we think of as, you know, real world things like the economy or, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
fighting between different parties and things like that. What if we all just said, well, what's in the best interest of the planet?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How would that look different from the decisions we make right now?
Yeah.
It's interesting to think, right? Those are coming from a higher spiritual place, not religion. And I don't mean to bash religion,
No.
but those are dogmas.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you take the dogma out of it and just have the spiritual, you know, what's
Mhm.
left, the essence of spirit is that it's love.
Yeah.
And the world would be
Absolutely.
completely different. The world would be
And it's not
completely
love
different.
as
So,
in I love you, right? And then,
mhm,
oh no, I don't love you anymore. We're talking about a really beautiful energy of love, aren't we? That has its foundation in the best interest for every single person on the planet, every blade of
yes,
grass,
it's
every choice
unconditional.
we make. It is unconditional.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
coming and bringing that into the forefront of our focus makes such a difference. So I'm really glad you brought that up today, Janet, because it's a very important point, and the word love can easily be misinterpreted
Right, right, right,
or
right.
interpreted in other ways. Yeah.
Yeah, or it's, it's a word that we bandy around a lot. I mean, I can say I love you. I can tell my kids I love them. I can tell my kitty cat who's sleeping behind me that I love her. But that's not what we're discussing here. This is a bigger what I would call an organizing principle of the universe.
Mhm,
And
Mm-hmm.
that we tap into or we don't. Right?
mhm.
We tap into it or we don't. So a lot of the time we don't. We just don't. We don't look at the world through love lenses. We look at the world through what's in it for me, or what can I get from you, or how, that's different ways. So wouldn't it be interesting if we could change up our habits and our routines, our traditions to be more in alignment with spiritual principles? That's
Yeah.
the the opportunity I think that we can come to with this particular full moon. And this is just in a couple of days. So it's already on people's minds, I'm sure, as we're already in this window of this full moon. Now, after the full moon on the, let's see, 6th of June for you guys, Venus will move into Leo. Now, this is so fascinating, you guys, because Venus is going to move retrograde in July. So the fact that she's moving into the sign of Leo and she will be there from June 6th all the way until October, because her entire retrograde time is going to be in Leo. Leo's a sign of the heart, a sign of love, right? Venus is the principle of love, right? That she's love and relationships and self-worth and value, heart. So it's a really beautiful setup.
Mhm.
But the retrograde, well, we'll talk about the retrograde for sure next month because it won't affect us until July 22nd, July 23rd, depending on the time that it happens. But then all of that needs to go inward, right? We have to look at the places of unlovingness within us. We'd have to look at the places of devaluing ourselves or devalue the value of ourselves because we won't see value clearly during that period of time. It's much better for us to focus it inward and explore what those concepts mean to us rather
Mhm.
than to put it out there in the world. So anyway, I just say this because Venus moving into Leo gives us an opportunity right off the bat to organize ourselves around our passions, around what we love.
Right.
Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure you girls have had the experience of doing something that you absolutely love or being somewhere where you absolutely love and time has no meaning,
Yeah.
Yep.
right? You look at the clock and you're like, oh, look at the time. Oh my gosh, I've been doing this for 8 hours. Um, and that's the experience of what could be when we're living in our hearts,
Mhm.
Okay.
right? Being so enraptured, I'm just going to throw that word out there, in the love of what we're doing that it carries us away. It carries us. And
Mm.
everybody's benefiting from that love. Everybody.
And we've
Yep.
stepped right out of time,
Right.
out of the concept of time, out of the construct of time, right?
Mm.
Absolutely. It's so interesting. That's one way for us to time travel or to stop time
Yeah.
altogether is to
Yeah.
orient ourselves to doing what we love. Now, that doesn't come without challenges. Again, because of the nature of the world we live in and the rules that we think we have to live by, right? That we might find ourselves having difficulty really aligning with our hearts. I can't tell you how many times I'll tell somebody, what you need to do is to do what you want to do. Live from your heart. And they'll be like, oh, but no, I have to have this job.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mm,
Yeah, that fear can be very, very great, can't it? That
yeah.
and it's the programming that we have because we're living in amongst a whole bunch of programming that tells us for most of our lives you have to do it this way in order to survive, in
Mhm.
order to keep going, in order to have the house, the car, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And I
The
think we are really,
survival. That's the
yeah,
key.
The
we
survival.
are
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
at that. We're right at that time now, aren't we? When we're really starting to see a lot of these old constructs are breaking down, which can
Mhm.
generate more fear. But at the end of the day, they're breaking down for a reason, and we're here for a reason.
Yeah.
And we're here to help bring forward that more
Bring
spirit.
those things out. You know, one of the best things that I've seen happening, that most people would probably think I'm crazy for thinking this is a good thing, is how after COVID, a lot of people did not go back to their old jobs.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, they're lazy. They don't want to work. They just want handouts. They're entitled, blah, 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 blah. But really, what COVID did for everybody, if it did anything good, is that it helped us redesign our priorities. And
Exactly.
it's that younger generation that's like, why am I doing these things? Like, why am I working in this dead end job where I hate going to work every day and I'm working 40 to 60 hours in a week? Why am I doing that? Oh, yeah, for a paycheck?
Yeah.
Got to do it differently. And so I see that as a positive expression of our realigning ourselves to live from our passions, to live from our heart, right? Not to be so caught up in the dollars, that, you know, the survival energy. It takes a lot of guts to do that. So I love those kids or people who were like, no, I'm not living that anymore. It's not my reality.
Yeah, COVID gave us that chance for people to break that habit that has gone on through generation after generation after generation. And COVID, I think, did a lot of good, and that's one of the major ones. And I think it's interesting how it's all working out still in the wash, so to speak.
Yeah. And I think it will still continue for a while. But I think what COVID really did here was give us the space to question the agreement of what work is in our world. Like, who decided that we were going to work 40 hours a week, let's say, or have work 5 days and only get 2 days off? Who decided that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is that in the best interest of people? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it is, but I think a lot of people really enjoy those 3-day weekends.
Yeah.
And it's worth asking the question. Whatever the answer that is feels correct and valid for you or for each of us, it is really worth asking the question, because for so long there was no space to ask a question like that. It wasn't acceptable. Now it's time. And again, it's part of what is happening with the energetic. It's almost like a time swap, a time stamp. It's like we've come up to the time where that's it. That's the old way of doing things. Now it's time to look at how are the different ways that we actually, that nurture us and make us feel valued and valuable, and doing what it is that we truly love, because the more we love doing what we do, the more love we're not only injecting into our own lives and energetic fields, but everybody else's as well.
And I want to tell you, that's not entitlement.
No.
I want to tell you that everybody is entitled to live from their highest heart, to do what they want to do, right? The rest of that stuff is that we think of as having to do is all made up.
Yeah.
It's all made up.
Yeah.
Right. It's a facade. You buy into it. I bought into it, right? I bought into, I have to make a living, and it may be true that you need money in order to pay your bills to live, but who said you had to do it doing drudgery?
Yeah.
Exactly. Who said there was only one way?
Right.
Who said it had to be really a struggle? And who said that you have to get to the end of each and every day waiting for Friday, when you can, you know, you get to Wednesday, the hump day, oh, thank God Friday's on the way. Who said it has to be like that? Really?
Right. That's what I say. It's an artificial construct. So the entitlement thing, you know, that's a word that they like to put on people who live their life differently.
Yeah.
But you are all entitled to live from your own heart, from what makes you happy. That's the thing that we've been missing. No one's really, everybody's looking for happiness, and they're looking for it outside of them, but it's really in here.
Inside,
It's inside. What would you love? Well, I would love to do astrology all day long. Well, guess what? I do. Most of the time, that's my day.
But that brings us back to, I think it was Leo and Venus, right?
Venus and Leo, coming back to the heart.
Yes, coming back to the heart. And Janet, you and I especially because we are here together in this moment, but for everyone who are having babies and grandbabies coming into the world around that time. Wow.
Girls even.
Yeah.
Girl babies.
Girl babies.
Yeah. That blew me away when you said she was a girl too. I was like, oh, girls, it's girl power.
It is girl power. And hey, let's also mention all the babies that are born in male bodies who have a lot of feminine energy to celebrate. You know,
Yeah.
this is an important thing. We're moving out of boys are boys and girls are girls. It's not like that anymore. And we have all that energy to support all of these beautiful people who are living out loud in a way that is true and authentic for them. Yes.
Yeah, it's great. That part's great. Now, it doesn't come without a struggle.
No.
As soon as Venus moves into Leo, she moves into an opposition with Pluto, who's at 0 degrees of Aquarius. So there's the opposition, right? Leo is a sign of the individual. Aquarius is the sign of the group or the bigger community of something. So it immediately puts us into transforming our concept of what it is to be a part of a group. Like, we're not supposed to disappear into the group.
No.
What we are doing is adding our unique energy to the group.
Yeah.
So, that list that it takes many voices. Like I have to tame myself half the time about the way our government's working right now, right? Like they're all fighting and there's, Republicans and then they're fighting against Democrats and then blah, 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 on and on and on. And that drives me insane. I have to remember we need all those different voices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What would it be like to not have a Republican Party? Well, it'd be pretty dismal. What would it be like to have only a Republican Party and no Democratic Party? Well, that would be dismal. So we need the voices, right? And we can do that in any different way that you want to think of. What would it be like if you took out all the males' voices in the world? Right? So we don't want to do that. We want everybody's voices. But
it's all about the balance.
Yeah.
Both sides are bringing a balance into the, I won't say the argument, to the discussion and how we can move forward. And but balance is so important in every single thing we do.
Yeah. But the fact that it's Pluto and Venus says we're really transforming at the level of the individual and the individual self-expression. And instead of, being just a part of the group, you're adding your unique voice, your unique viewpoint to the tapestry that is humanity. So that one to me is an interesting thing. And like I said, she's going to be there for a long time.
Wow.
So when you take Venus in Leo for this extended period of time, and you take the Jupiter North Node conjunction at the 27, the gate 27 in human design, which is all about accountable for your own self-nurturing, we see a theme building here. Like this theme is like becoming a drumbeat of our taking care of ourselves. But part of taking care of yourself is also knowing who you are and expressing that in the world. So there we have that. Now, the next big thing in the month will be on the 10th of July or June. I don't know why I'm saying July. And it will be probably the 11th in your time zone. And that is when Pluto, who is in retrograde now, will be moving backward into Capricorn. Like he's not done with us yet in Capricorn. He's not done with the whole destruction of the institutions and the structures that we've built that no longer can be sustained. He is in a mood to be conservative. And again, not a political movement conservative, but to preserve what's good and useful and to let go of all the rest, right? What works for us. And it's interesting because he's going to spend an inordinate, when he moves retrograde, which just means he's moving backwards. So he's at 0 degrees of Aquarius. So he's moving backward to 29 degrees of Capricorn because there's
that's what that means.
Yeah. So when he moves back to 29 degrees of Capricorn, he sits there for weeks. Most times planets are just moving across a degree then they turn direct and they move forward across that degree again. But the nature of Pluto is he's far out there, he moves slowly. So we are going to get a big dose of 29-degree Capricorn. And the 29th degree of any sign is pretty powerful stuff. I heard a great word from another astrologer. He called it effulgent, right? It's just waiting to boil up and burn out, come out, right? So effulgent, if you think
Wow.
of, and it could be cheerfulness, it could be excitement, it could be, just the expression of something coming up from the deep and being expressed outward. And that's what the 29th degree of any sign is all about. So what's the 29th degree of Capricorn? It's about really finally shaking off the shackles of our institutions, the things that have been holding us down. Like, I think
Wow.
one of the things we really have to look at is corporations and the power that they have to
Yes.
dictate our lives.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't have any particular thoughts about how to go about that. I know we need corporations; they do a lot, but I think there's an evolution of consciousness going on in corporations now. I wish that would go a little bit faster, but oh well. It is what it is. But so maybe Pluto in retrograde at that degree is going to help with the shaking out of the things that are not going to be supportive moving into his 20-year stay in Aquarius eventually next year. So interesting times, right?
Oh, yeah.
Aquarius, Pluto is looking at the future. Aquarius, Pluto is looking at the marginalized groups of people, dragging them into inclusivity. And
Okay.
we're seeing the blowback against that inclusivity right now, right? A 29th degree is almost going to always bring back up those voices that are against whatever it is that you're trying to
Right.
do, that are against the explosion or effulgence of new energy. So we see consequently, rights being taken away, or, fights that we thought were over coming back.
Okay.
And I think that's just a symptom of the fact that change is upon us, right? So
Yeah.
take heart, like, those things, like there's a people attacking the states in this country. I don't know what's going on in your country, but states attacking LGBTQ rights, that they were hard won rights, right? That they're
Absolutely.
equal, right?
Yeah.
And
Mm.
states like Florida, they're just beating that up. They're trying to take it out of the classrooms about anything to do with diversity. There's a lot like that going on, and it's not just in the USA, of course, it's going to be everywhere, but maybe different ways that it's showing up, where there's the blowback against that future, but that future is upon us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to
Yeah.
see probably for these several weeks that Pluto is at the 29th degree, some, pushback from corporations or institutions trying to reestablish themselves in their old way of being.
Boom.
Mhm.
Not gonna
Yeah.
happen.
No, that's it. It is futile in the sense that, we are on a trajectory now. This amazing energy of ascension is happening, whether you
Mhm.
like it or not. But as you say, it's not about a simple moving forward. Sometimes if you're going to go from A to B, you might have to go all over creation
Yeah.
in order to
Yeah.
get there. And other times you'll
Yeah.
get there in a much more direct way. But eventually you do get there, and we
Yeah.
are getting there as well.
It's like
Mm.
2 steps forward and 1 step back, but you're
Mm.
still 1
Yep.
step
But there's
forward,
still
right?
one step
So
forward, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah, exactly. So, take heart. If you see things, just remember the power is in the people. That's the
Yes.
big lesson that we'll learn
It-
over the course of time. We already see it, but I don't know, people haven't put it together yet. That groups that have come together to forward an agenda, let's say, like movements, or what was it, the hashtag Me Too, the Occupy movements, the Black Lives Matters movements, and
Yeah.
these are grassroots movements that were kind of symptomatic. They're showing us where the energy is going as we get further along with the Pluto and Aquarius.
Mm.
And it's the power that a few have working together to forward a movement of some
Yeah.
sort, whatever that is. Typically with Aquarius energy, it would be about humanitarianism or community or group, organization. There are other concerns, of course, AI, artificial intelligence, that's huge, right?
Oh,
That was the first thing
Yeah.
that exploded when Pluto moved into Aquarius for that short time. So we'll see a lot happening. So just take heart. If we see ourselves backsliding, it'll only be sort of temporary. What
Yeah.
will be left is the good stuff that we can take, the things that we've learned from the experiences that we've had, and pull them with us into the future. But
Mm.
it's a Watusi, right? We're going back and forth.
Yeah.
What did I call it? Fading in and fading out. Right? There's this
Mhm.
feeling like it's there and then it's gone, and then it's there and then it's gone.
So
But
it's
eventually
that
it comes and
focus,
stays.
isn't it? It's
Mm.
where are we going to put our attention and our focus? Because this is the thing. We and it all comes back to choice. And sometimes it
Right.
feels like you have no choice. But at the end of the day, we do. What am I going to focus on? Where am
Yeah.
I going to put my attention? What am I going to encourage to continue by feeding my attention into that channel? So,
Yes.
just make your choices about whereabouts you really do want your energy to flow to, because your
Find your
energy is
people. That's the
important.
other
Yeah.
thing. Find your
Yes.
people. Find those people that
Yeah.
you resonate with, that are of similar heart and mind, and put your energy, add your energy
Yes.
with theirs to create. Now, that doesn't mean that if your group is separate from a different group, that group is wrong and you're right.
Mm.
It just means that, oh, okay, they're a part of a different tapestry. And
Mm.
then we can build bridges, right, between groups and find common ground and live a more, I don't know, balanced, harmonious existence. But again, we're looking at the future for that. It's not
Mm.
going to
Yeah.
happen overnight, and it's not going to happen if you don't choose it.
Exactly. I love that. It's not going to happen if you don't choose it. And
Yeah.
here's the thing, it can happen for others, but doesn't happen for us because you haven't chosen it. So
Yeah.
it doesn't even mean that it's never going to happen. It's just our energetic field. What are we going to, connect with and really
Yep.
help support? And I love
Yep.
that, Janet. I love
Yep.
that we have that power. It sometimes feels like we haven't, but the fact is we actually do.
Yeah. It's called free will.
Well,
Mm.
free
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
And it's not always easy. Free will is not always
Uh-uh.
easy.
It's a
However,
responsibility, right? That's
is.
the thing.
Yep.
Free will is a responsibility, but it's definitely there. And like you said, Anea, even if you think you're not making a choice, you've just made the choice. You've
Yeah.
made the
Exactly.
choice not to choose.
Yep. That's
Mm.
it. That's so true.
Yeah.
And I think it's beautiful because, you're here, Janet, telling us, okay, these sorts of things are supported by what's happening, with the planets,
Hmm.
but it's not the end of the story. It's some of the pages some of the words on one of the pages, or 10 of the
Right.
pages, or 100 of the pages, but it is certainly not the whole book.
No, it's not.
Mm.
And a lot of people get into trouble with astrology because they think that astrologers are telling them that the stars divine or that the stars are guiding you into certain actions. But that's not true either.
No.
The stars are just sort of the map. It's like
Mm.
as above, so below.
Oh,
So
yeah.
what's going on down here is really just a picture of what's going on up here, as what's going on up here is just a picture of what's going on down here. They're interconnected, but not one is causing the other, right? So
Mhm.
you still always maintain your free will.
Yes, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I remember the angel saying in the angel code, now, okay, what was it, guys? Choice must be offered before choice can be made.
Yes. How
There you
profound that
go.
is.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just a few little words, but wow. Yep.
Right?
So
It's
true.
that waiting for the right opportunity. It's that waiting for what's correct for you. It's about
Yeah.
choosing what's right for you and not worrying that someone else might not like your choice, because
Mm.
it's not your job to make everybody happy.
No,
It's
it's
your
Exactly.
job to
not.
make you
Yeah.
happy.
And that's
Yes.
the old construct that we're moving out of,
Uh,
particularly, for women of our age, Carol Ann, because that was the whole premise for
Mm.
our teachings in our families. It is up to you to make sure everybody else is happy. Keep your husband happy, keep your kids happy, keep your community happy, keep your friends happy. Don't have any opinions of your own if they go against the popular opinion of the time. So it's not always easy to leave that behind, but my God, it's freeing when you do. You know?
Absolutely. It's almost like taking off a bunch of weight.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All
Letting
that
letting
heaviness
it go.
So free and so true.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We've been carrying it around for so long. We can just let it go.
You just
Right.
let it go.
And it doesn't make sense in this world now, the way it is
No.
to do those things, right? We know better than this. And
Yeah.
that's just part of the dynamic on this planet anyway, is change. It's always
Yes.
transformation and change, right? We're always moving through it.
So
And
just let me just say also, hang on, Jen, let me just say something to that. So if you are finding that you feel you cannot break out of those patterns, that's okay too. It's okay, because people will come and support you in whatever you choose. And if you ever do decide to make a different choice, you will be supported in that as well. So please don't give yourself a hard time. That is not love.
Right time, right place, right people, right opportunities.
Yeah.
And again, human design is very helpful in getting you into the right place, right time, right people mode. But you also have to know that nothing that was genuinely for you will ever be withheld from you. Never.
Ever.
Right?
That's important. Really
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. Your soul is wise. It knows more in its bigger scope of things than you do from your limited human egoic position. And the fear is, I'm not going to get mine, or I'm not going to have enough, but that's not true.
No,
But
it's
you can
not.
affect that by the choices that you make when the choices are presented.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
that's an important thing. All right. So moving beyond Pluto and Capricorn, we're now in that third week, or from the 11th to the 17th of June. Mercury will move into Gemini. So we have an empowered Mercury because it's in the sign of its own rulership, meaning they are very good together. And Mercury in Gemini is very conversant. It is ideas and exchanges of ideas, and probably a lot of visiting and talking and communicating going on, but also a tendency to scatter some energy. So we'll be watchful for that from the 11th of June until Mercury moves into Cancer the 26th of June. So I'm going to modify that for you. The 12th to the 27th of June is the time where a lot of mind energy is going, right? A lot of mind energy, which can also create anxiety. So people watch for that. Anxiety comes when you're depending on your mind to make decisions.
Yeah.
The mind is not the place to make decisions. It's only the place for thinking.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I love that. Oh my gosh, I love that.
We don't make decisions from human design's perspective. We only make decisions below the neck,
Wow.
right? It's either coming from the heart, it's coming from the spleen, or from intuition, or it's coming from your body's wisdom in the moment, or it's coming from emotions. Doesn't come from thinking
I
at
love
all.
that. But see,
That's
I
so
never knew
good.
that my whole life.
Yeah, that's so
Until
good.
recently.
There is not one person on this planet defined to make decisions from their heads. The head is only an awareness tool. It just can be aware of information, of comparing and analyzing and all of that. That is not a place to make the decision from. Doesn't know yes or no. It just knows what is. Here's
Yeah.
the information. Now you have to decide. Brain isn't the place to decide. And a lot of anxiety comes up, a lot of worry and anxiety comes up from people trying to make that decision up here, right? It just doesn't come from here. But if you get into your body, or you get into your intuition, or you get into your emotions, depending on how your human design is set up, then your truth becomes apparent.
It really does, because there are so many times that my head wants to take me down this path of worry, worry, worry. What if? Oh my God, that could happen. Oh, what if that happens? But what I've learned to do, and very successfully when I remember to do it, is to just take a breath and go into my heart. How's my heart feeling about this? Oh, no, my heart feels okay about it. So I know it's just my mind, yada, 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 yuck, yuck, yuck.
Yeah.
So that has been very helpful. So thank you for bringing that up, because I know
Yeah.
that affects a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yes, a lot of people, right? A lot of people. And we're designed to think. We have a brain.
Yes.
So
Right.
thinking comes naturally, but that's just not the place where we make our big life decisions from, right? Just you can go to the internet and you can find all kinds of information on a topic, but it's up to you to read that and to understand that.
Yes.
So you can't really go to the mind and go, okay, now make this decision, because it's really just a repository of a bunch of information that it's gathered along the way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's not to
why then-
minimize the brain.
Yeah, and that's why then the
Mm.
decision, if you make it from your brain, it doesn't feel right. But when you've made it from your heart or within your body, then it feels right, because that's the place to make that decision.
Yeah. And we used to know this as humans.
Yeah.
We used to live by this until we got to, maybe what, in 14th, 15th century, where science began to take over and the whole idea of learning and knowledge and categorizing and all of that came about. And I'm not saying that was a bad thing. I'm just saying that it had the impact on us
Yeah.
of releasing the body wisdom for logic and reason. And you
Yep.
can't only use logic and reason to make a decision. It
No.
isn't going to work
No,
in the best, right?
I'm listening to a book called After by Gregory somebody or other, and he's a psychiatrist, and looking into near-death experiences. And he said something, it was a quote from someone else, and I can't remember what it was, and this is paraphrasing, but it was something along the lines of, science isn't about what is. Science is about how do we make better decisions about the things we don't know about.
And it's not meant to go to the exclusion of the mythic side of things, the more storytelling side of things, the more creative side of things. Science isn't an excuse to delegitimize the things that we know from the more spiritual, feminine side.
Yeah.
So we could go on forever about that.
It's brilliant. I love it. But I think
Yeah.
it's fantastic, because right there are a few little tools for people to think about, a few little things to take out into your day, work out, how does that feel for you? What do you think about that? And I think that's brilliant. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next, we have later in that week, we have Saturn turning retrograde. So now we begin, Pluto's retrograde. We've already had a Mercury retrograde in 2023, but now these outer planets are going to start switching over. First was Pluto and then Saturn, and late in the month, Neptune goes retrograde. When planets turn retrograde, they turn all the activity inward. So now we are working through issues on the inner planes that will then be expressed on the outer planes when they change direction yet again, closer to the fall, our fall, your spring.
Yes.
I always forget I'm on the other side of the equator here. So that's something to keep in contact or keep in your mind, because a lot of times we get really worried when things seem to slow down. And that causes us sometimes to want to leap into or leap out of things. But there's this natural ebb and flow with the energies of the outer planets, that bring us both that inward focus and alternately that outward focus. And Saturn is turning inward, going retrograde in the sign of Pisces, going back over the places he's been since March 23rd or March 7th, when he moved into that sign. So we may be relearning some lessons. We may be re-experiencing some things. And several hours later that day is the new moon in Gemini. And the
Wow.
new moon in Gemini is about the light. Now, normally people don't think much about that Gemini and the light. Typically, we're thinking about things like communication and travel, moving and moving energy, transportation, and things like that, the mind, thinking. But in this particular new moon, it sits across directly from the galactic center. And the galactic center, by the way, is the source of all of the cosmic energy, if you will, gamma rays, cosmic rays, neutrinos, which are pieces of molecules that have information. They're information packets, if you will, that get brought to all of the planets in the solar system. But we're sentient, and we can do something with this as it comes in. And the thing for us to remember here is that whatever it is we're focusing on is what we're bringing into reality. So if we can even focus on one little pinpoint of light or one little thing that's positive, we make it bigger because of our attention that's placed on it.
Wow.
Likewise, if you want to focus on the negative, if you want to be a negative Nelly, then you can look at that and make that negativity bigger. So it's a real opportunity for us with this new moon to focus on, what do we want? What do we want to create?
Yeah.
What would you do if you knew you could not fail? How would you bring more light to the planet? So I love this particular new moon. It's a big one.
That's exciting. That is really exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds really amazing.
Now, of course, there's always going to be challenges too, right? There's always something that has to, so it's not
Yep.
all, feathers and bows. Because there is a square to Neptune, which can sometimes mean we're lost in a fog. We get sort of confused. There's the possibility, though, that we can also have our intuition heightened for us during that new moon and be able to see more clearly, perhaps because the light has dimmed and we have to focus on a pinpoint of light, what direction is right for us to take. So it's a good moon. It's a good moon. And I know we're getting after time here. Two other big things that are happening, the summer solstice, winter solstice, right? There's always a turning point. And I could dive into the whole solstice thing, but that could be a whole nother hour show. But the solstices and the equinoxes are turning points of love energy. Now, we don't see that necessarily in astrology. We can't really distill that or pull that out. But in human design, the seasonal shifts are all about love, the gates of love. There's the gate of the love of self, the gate of the love of humanity, the gate of the love of spirit, and the gate of the love of the physical world, your body, basically. This particular time period brings us into seeing ourselves with more loving eyes. And when we see ourselves with more loving eyes, we then have more love to give to humanity, right?
Yeah.
So I always think about these things at the solstices and the equinoxes because those gates become prevalent, right? They're there. The sun will be at the gate of the love of humanity, compassion to our fellow humans, right?
Wow.
The earth, the challenge is to also give that same love to oneself.
Yeah.
Yes, which is full circle, isn't it?
Right. So then that
the
seasonal shift gives us this opportunity to apply those loving principles through the next 3-month period of time.
Yeah.
It all comes down to love, bigger love, not just the bigger love.
Yeah.
So that's what we have going on. Well, the last thing is worth noting, of course, there's more things, but that one is the one I want to talk about. The nodes shift, the north node and the south node. They're preparing to shift signs as well in astrology, but in human design, they shift typically every 3 to 4 months. This shift is moving us toward innovation and inventiveness and seeing things with fresh eyes or with new possibilities. And the south node, what we have to leave behind is corruption. And corruption isn't what you think, like bad politicians or something like that. Corruption here is more about how we've misread the code, right? Your computer, Carol Ann, your computer, maybe you had downloaded some software and there was a corruption in that software and the computer had to correct the corruption. Well, it's the same thing that happens at the DNA level, right? When your DNA is dividing, sometimes there's a corruption, and we have built-in ways for correcting that code in our DNA so that the new cell is shiny, bright, and new, just like it's supposed to be. But sometimes those corruptions are ones that we don't catch. And then they start to upset the whole system. So corruption here, what we're leaving behind are the old patterns, right? We're leaving behind the things that have not served us well. And that's going to be a myriad of possibilities.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
In favor of moving into inventive territory, moving into possibilities.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
there's a
The
little bit
capital
of an
P.
innocence around this, right? There's innocence in this because we don't know what the future is going to hold exactly. We don't, when we start something new, do we know then what we're doing? No, we just go in like a child, with,
Mhm.
okay, open heart, open arms, let's just embrace it all.
Yeah.
That's sort of the energy that for the next 3 months or so of this we'll need to remember that we're there's an innocence in the future because it's not been lived yet. We haven't been jaded by it yet.
Yeah.
So all
Yeah.
things are possible at this moment in time. Keep that in
Oh,
mind.
I
All
love
things are
it.
possible.
I love that. And
Yeah.
I would really love you to come back and talk with Carol Ann and I about all the stuff we didn't get to talk about the winter summer solstice and the human design aspects with all the different gates and things. Could we arrange to do that in the near future?
Yeah, absolutely. So whenever you
Right.
have an opening in your schedule, sometime between now and what is that, June 21st, June 20th, my time, somewhere,
Yep.
we could
Well,
certainly do
Carol
that.
Ann and I are coming back on a more regular basis now. Yay. So
Yay!
we'll arrange a time with you off air, but that'll be great, everyone. Let's
Yeah.
really find out more about this and what it really means. And then it's a great follow on from this program as well. To start, yes, please, Amy saying, yes, please come back. So, yeah, so that's fantastic. So we'll arrange that and we'll let you guys know when it's going to be. Keep an eye on our Facebook page.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
I love it because
Fantastic.
when we get to the seasons, we do actual charts for that season as if it were a person or an
Wow.
entity.
Yep.
And so we can kind of see ahead to what is, possible for that 3-month period of time by putting a chart together for that time.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's
I love that.
amazing. That
Yeah,
is
it's like a
just
season's birth.
amazing.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yep.
Wow. And of
Yep.
course,
So,
everyone, you can get your free chart on, you see it on there on Janet's screen, living-astrology.com. Go and check her out, order your free chart. And of course, if you'd like a human design reading or other type of reading, Janet has heaps available for you. And I can really personally recommend you go and have your human design done because,
Yeah.
I mean, it's way over my head, Janet, but when you explain it, I understand it. And because I had the reading with you, it broke it down into salient points for me that I could really say, right, I get that, I get that, I get that. How do I then put that into my life? And it was made things a lot easier. I'm not struggling with certain things that I used to. So brilliant.
yeah, something magical happens with the human design chart because
Mm.
once you become aware of it, a deconditioning process begins. And you can never go completely back to being ignorant of your human design anymore because it's
Yeah.
working on you on all these different levels. So I mean, they say it takes 7 years to decondition completely. I don't know if that's true or not. Um, I think with time being the way it is, and if people are open enough to, pursue changing their lives, with consciousness, you could do that
Mm.
maybe
Mm.
quicker.
Yeah.
But once you're aware, it's hard to go back. You can't go
Yeah.
back to sleep
That's
once you're
right.
awake with this.
And you don't,
That's
and
right.
really, yeah, Caroline, sorry.
And you wouldn't want to go back.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
You get to look at all of this stuff and you think, wow, the future is what I'm making of it by my thoughts, etc., and my chart. Why would you want to go back? And so it gives you a new perspective, and then that love and energy is going out to the universe, out to everybody. And so that's also amazing.
And it doesn't mean that you won't make mistakes on the path, right? And screw it up and have to start over with something. But ideally, that gets ingrained in you. It gets under your skin, gets into your, very DNA. And
it does.
and it's then hard to close your eyes and go, yeah, I'm going back to bed. Sorry.
Sorry.
And even if you do, what I found is even in those times like, oh, this is just all too much. I've been going through quite a big period this last probably 15 months of pulling back from the world. It's still there. And it's still encouraging me. And I know that now that I'm ready to step forward again, there's so much support there for me and the understanding of it. And just things like are saying, let's do this next show, that is a great support system for me. And it's something I'm really excited about, not just for sharing with you guys, but also for what I'm going to learn.
Yeah. Woohoo. That's the thing, right? We learn from each other.
We do, which is brilliant.
Oh, this has been awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was great to be here today. It was wonderful.
So,
Annette
thank
enjoying
you,
her
Annette.
vacation,
Yes.
and she goes away, and the cats will play.
That's it.
The
That's
girls
it.
will play.
Yeah, it's been
Yeah,
wonderful.
well, your cat's sleeping, isn't it, behind you?
Yes, she's passed out. Oh no, she's gone. She disappeared.
She's gone.
I left the front door
Stealthy.
open. She has a cat door, so she could go, and come and go at her will. So that's probably where she's gone.
Awesome. Yeah. So,
I love
Janet,
cats.
thank you. So do I.
Yeah.
Sort of, my daughter's got a cat, Minx, and upstairs, and every now and again she's like, she gallops down the hallway, and it just fills me with so much joy. It's like, you can feel how happy she is. She's having, and Lana, I remember when they got their new couch, and Lana's right, no, she is not going on the couch. And then one day she just looked at me and she said, I know Minx is going to rule this house.
Cats have a way of doing that.
They certainly do.
They're awesome. They're awesome.
They do what they want. Maybe they're good models for us as humans.
Maybe they are.
Definitely.
Yes, that's exactly right. They know exactly what they want and what they're not prepared to accept either. So, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. It was wonderful to see you both. And I look forward to coming back and talking about the summer-winter solstice. Winter-summer. Your winter, my summer.
Yeah. Perfect.
Look forward
Thank
to
you
it
so
too.
much.
All right. Take care.
Thanks, Janet.
You
Lots of
too.
love.
Bye. Lots of love.
Bye.
Oh, Carol-Ann, thank you. I'm so glad you made it today. How fabulous.
Yes, I'm glad I got here in the end. We're still live streaming though at the moment.
I know, because we haven't wrapped up yet. So I just want to say,
well, that's good. That's why we're still live streaming. Yes, I've got a few little hiccups I need to work out here, but that's
okay. You will.
It's all good. It's all
So
good.
thank you everyone for joining us. It's always great to spend some time with you and to share with you, and to know that what we bring forward means something to you in your world, in your day, in your heart. So thank you for all the comments on the live stream today. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant to have you with us. So we're very blessed, aren't we, Carol-Ann?
We're very blessed, and it's just such a delight to be back here with everybody, and it coming from our hearts, and we know that it's connecting up with yours, because it's just such a beautiful thing to be.
Yeah. So remember your magnificence, everyone. Remember that you matter. Who you are is important, and what you do is important, and especially the love that you give to yourself is extremely important. So stay tuned. We'll be back with you before you know it. Keep an eye on our Facebook pages, and we'll let you know about that new show coming up with Janet, and also what our next topic is going to be as well, because as I said earlier, we're going to be back with you a lot more regularly now. Thanks everyone. Lots of love.
Okay, bye.